Hey there, what is going on? It is Rob from Crypto Bobby, and today we have some news that might make you chuckle, might make you a little bit angry, might make you question some things, could give you all the feels. So let's hop into it, and I think it's going to, for a lot of you, probably get you a little bit pissed off, maybe make you think about things from the perspective of some outside industries, but let's hop into it. My name is Rob from Crypto Bobby. I do daily recorded videos on cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the altcoins. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button. But the CEO of the largest, or one of the largest banking institutions on the planet, JPMorgan and Chase, which is as you can see here on Google Finance, close to $320 billion institution by market capitalization perspective, has come out today and slammed Bitcoin. And the headlines from this are going to be funny. They're going to be interesting. The headline to this YouTube video, I don't know what it is going to be yet, but it's probably going to be something about Jamie Dimon and Bitcoin being a fraud and for murderers and drug dealers. So let's hop into it. Jamie Dimon today was at an investment conference, and he was asked about a number of different things, but the concept and the discussion of Bitcoin came up. Jamie Dimon ripped it to shreds. And again, if you're not familiar with Jamie Dimon, he is the CEO of JPMorgan Chase, which is a very large banking institution. And he came out and said Bitcoin is not going to, cryptocurrency is not going to end well. Bitcoin is a fraud, and it's worse than the tulip bulb mania. And to add to that, he mentioned that he would essentially fire any JPMorgan trader that began trading in Bitcoin, because he said it's against the rules and because they're stupid and dangerous. So basically said that he would go out and pretty much Bitcoin is dumb, it's a fraud, it's a tulip bulb, and that anybody at JPMorgan who tries to trade this stuff on JPMorgan's books is going to get their ass fired. It's kind of funny too, thinking about this, because I'm from, I work in Manhattan, which is the financial capital of the world. And I know multiple people that work at JPMorgan that are heavily interested in cryptocurrency, that are heavily invested in cryptocurrency, that enjoy cryptocurrency more than they enjoy the traditional financial world, and want nothing more than to see cryptocurrency succeed. So when JPMorgan says this stuff, or not when JPMorgan, excuse me, when Jamie Dimon says this stuff, I'm sure there's a lot of people internally that might agree with him, but there's also a lot of people at JPMorgan that are personally invested in Bitcoin, that are personally invested in cryptocurrency, and want to see this stuff succeed, and they're probably pretty pissed off seeing these comments right now. So that's something to definitely take note of. And one thing we'll say here too is Bloomberg is reporting that Bitcoin has slipped on Jamie Dimon's remarks. It's really more than that. Bitcoin was up around 40 or close to 4,300 and has dropped to below 4,100. I'll pull up the live charts right now. But since these comments is down, maybe we'll take a look at it. Down right now about 2.5%. But really, for me personally, that's much more to China news than it is specifically on Jamie Dimon's skepticism. Now, that's not the only thing Jamie Dimon had to say about Bitcoin as well. So, said one halfway positive thing about Bitcoin, which has nothing to do with Bitcoin itself, but really the blockchain technology, which he said could still be useful, can still have application to banks, but it won't be overnight. Now, you might notice too, and I'm kind of curious as well of what this might have on an effect, but I kind of remembered previously that JPMorgan Chase is actually a member of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, which is something that drove a lot of the price action in Ethereum earlier this year. And you can see JPMorgan's logo chilling right over here. And I'm kind of curious too, as far as what his thoughts would be specifically on Ethereum and on that specific type of blockchain versus Bitcoin. But again, too, utilizing the blockchain as a technology doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Bitcoin. You can utilize blockchain as a technology. You can develop private blockchains. You can develop private blockchains for banking institutions for your own personal utilization to gain the benefit out of that and still have nothing to do with Bitcoin, still potentially short Bitcoin in the future, and really not like the currency itself. So that's essentially what came out. And two more points to that, or one more point, kind of the biggest one really, is he mentioned that if you're in Venezuela, or if you're in Ecuador, North Korea, parts of the world like that, or if you're a drug dealer or a murderer, that's really the only time Bitcoin is effective as a currency. Outside of that, you're better holding the dollar, and the market is very limited. Now, I do agree that Bitcoin is very useful in places like Venezuela or Ecuador or North Korea, specifically Venezuela and Ecuador, where there's hyperinflation and the central banking institutions there do not have a lot of power, do not have a good handle on things, and the money is basically useless the second you get it. Bitcoin has a lot of value there and can really provide a lot of benefit to citizens of those countries. And Bitcoin, I'm not a murderer or a drug dealer, but Bitcoin probably works well for murderers or drug dealers as well, because it's not as traceable as the US dollar. There's no bank account for it. There's no PayPal associated with it. So there's some utility there as well in terms of like the dark market of Bitcoin. But there's a lot of other things outside of that from Bitcoin's perspective where there's use and utility that ordinary American citizens, ordinary global citizens that aren't murderers, drug dealers, or living in a country with hyperinflation or a terrible central bank can get benefits out of. I firmly believe that. And I think that's why the price is now over $60 billion in market cap, is because Bitcoin is an effective payment solution and it's effective store of value as well. And I think it's proved that over time. Granted, there's still some technical hurdles that we have to work through from a transaction scalability perspective and things like that, but those are in progress, and I think everything is a work in progress. Now, what should you potentially be thinking about when Jamie Dimon comes out and the CEO of a $300 billion bank slams Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies really in general, and says they're a fraud? Well, some people, I think the majority of people watching this right now are going to say, that's bullshit. They got bailed out in 2008 or 2009 or whatever. They were part of the financial meltdown. There are a lot of kind of original Bitcoiners and a lot of people that have gotten into cryptocurrency because of the anti-establishment nature of cryptocurrency. So quite frankly, I think that this might light a storm under a lot of people and even make a lot more interest in the space as these headlines come out where Jamie Dimon is calling it a fraud, saying it's for murderers and drug dealers. But outside of that too, I really don't think this is going to have that much of an effect. There are multiple smart, intelligent people, whether they're in Silicon Valley, primarily in the tech space, whether they're in Manhattan in financial services. Like I said, there are multiple people that I know personally that work at JPMorgan that are invested in this stuff, that are looking to trade this stuff, that are potentially looking to make this cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, their entire career outside of JPMorgan. So when somebody says something and kind of represents the entire company, I don't think that's necessarily accurate. I'm sure there's a lot of people there that disagree, and I'm sure there's some people there that agree. And even when we're watching, when somebody, you might be watching this video thinking, yeah, Bitcoin is a fraud. You're an idiot. Why would you have any money in this? Why do you think it's going to go anywhere? It is a tulip bubble or a tulip bulb or whatever you want to say. But I think the technology is extremely revolutionary. I think that the talent that is now working in this space is incredibly revolutionary. And I think the opportunity for investment here is something that is unlike I've ever seen and unlike I've ever personally experienced as well. So just because somebody out there says that Bitcoin is a fraud doesn't necessarily mean it is. I'm sure Jamie Dimon is extremely intelligent. You don't get to be extremely intelligent, or you don't get to be the CEO of a $300 billion bank without being very intelligent. At the same time, it doesn't mean you can't be closed-minded to new technologies. It doesn't mean that larger institutions haven't been disrupted by things that they've said are stupid before. There are a lot of companies that were, you can use the example of on-premise. So I work in technology. You can use the example of on-premise software. There are countless examples of on-premise software companies that dismissed cloud computing and cloud software and said, cloud is a fad. It's BS. Nobody wants to invest their, basically put their information, put their resources, put their technology on a public cloud on-premise is the way to go and this is stupid. Those companies are dinosaurs now. They don't exist. A lot of them have been acquired by private equity. They've gone out of business. They've basically poofed into nothing. I'm not saying JPMorgan is going to poof into nothing. That's going to be difficult for a $300 billion company. But at the same point in time, that doesn't necessarily mean that JPMorgan can't be heavily disrupted by Bitcoin in the future. And if we take a look at the price action here, it looks like there's been a little bit of we're starting to see a little bit of a recovery from where things have dropped off to, at least for the last hour or so. I think people are kind of buying things back up. So I'm not worried from a price perspective about what this means for Bitcoin, what Jamie Dimon's comments mean personally. Would it have been nice for Jamie Dimon to come out and say, have the CEO of a $300 billion bank come out and say, yeah, Bitcoin is game-changing, it's revolutionary, we're going to have traders working on this stuff, we're going to have teams working on this stuff, we're going to do whatever with Bitcoin. It's going to be, it's a revolutionary cryptocurrency, and we're bullish on it, and we're interested in how it develops moving forward. If the CEO of a $300 billion bank said that, I think there would have been really heavy positive movement and price action on Bitcoin. You would have maybe seen, a couple percentage points of a jump. But I think you can also see in a lot of respects how resilient Bitcoin is now, where the CEO of a $300 billion institution came out and said Bitcoin is a fraud, and the price only dropped a couple percent. Maybe a couple years ago, the price would have dropped 15, 20, 30% if Jamie Dimon came out and said that Bitcoin was a fraud. Now, so many people are invested in it, so many people are confident in the technology that a lot of people can trash it, and it's really not going to make that much of a difference long term, in my opinion. Just because one person says it's BS doesn't mean that it is. Granted, you want to take everybody's kind of thoughts into consideration, form your own opinion, and do you. But at the same point in time, I'm remaining confident in the technology. I'm remaining confident in Bitcoin. I'm remaining confident in Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies. And I don't agree with the comments and the sentiments on that. So that's my personal opinion. I don't agree with Jamie Dimon on this. I think that his institution is in some position to be heavily disrupted from the rise of Bitcoin and the rise of other platforms like Ethereum and other things out there. So that's just my personal thoughts. That's kind of what I'm thinking now as I look to move forward in investment. And again, too, just looking at these charts and just generally speaking, I really don't think this is that big of a deal. But it's something that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be really pissed off when they read. And for the near future and for really the long-term future, I bet you any time from here on out when Jamie Dimon says something, or when JPMorgan says something, or if Chase and cryptocurrency are mentioned in the same thing, you're going to see the headlines of Jamie Dimon says Bitcoin is a fraud, and Jamie Dimon says Bitcoin is for murderers and drug dealers, and that's all you're going to remember it by. So I think this might have been a little bit short-sighted to just kind of rip Bitcoin to shreds like that, but if you want to make an aggressive stand, Jamie, do you, and good luck. So I'm going to continue holding. I'm going to continue accumulating and looking at this and looking for opportunities, and thanks for a little bit of a discount. So that's kind of my thought process there. Now, outside of that, if you are new or if you have not kind of seen the website yet, it's pretty kind of bare bones just as far as my website, cryptobobby.com. But if you want to check out any of the tools and resources I utilize, or even my portfolio in general, so I put my portfolio together just so you can see kind of my holdings of what this is in a fiat value, so you can get a feel for kind of where my head's at from an investment perspective. One thought process here is this was updated September 6th. I actually need to update this. I've since increased the Bitcoin holdings. So that is one of the areas where as more people rip it and as the price goes down a little bit, I'm accumulating, kind of moving certain altcoins back into Bitcoin and taking my profits there and moving them back into Bitcoin. So definitely something to keep in mind. I will link to this in the description as well, so you can take a look at that below if you're on the podcast in the description. I also link to this Bloomberg article in the description too, so that you can take a read at that and give that a good look. And if you are new to this channel, hit me up with a subscribe. I would really appreciate that. I do daily recorded cryptocurrency videos on whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, any of the altcoins, talk about why I'm investing in certain things, why I'm not necessarily interested in investing in other things. And then in addition to that, I do crypto happy hours where I just kind of come in, shoot the shit with a lot of you guys, talk about what I think is happening in the marketplace, and try to answer as many questions with the community as possible. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button if you are new here. Rob from Crypto Bobby signing out. Peace.